JP has won the confidence of the people, and at the upcoming general election, if you continue in this manner, we are not going to win. We are not going to come into power. We are looking at many years more in opposition. Unfortunately, although we say we have a good team, I don't see how that good team that we have is being utilized.
What are your honest views on the NPP? Do you think they can really bring about a system change and walk the talk?
Here, the people of the country are giving them that mandate. They will get a majority. Certainly, I don't think they will get two-thirds majority in parliament, but I think they will come pretty close. Clearly, all the forecasts and the predictions and some other surveys that were done clearly indicated that we will not make it. We will not win the presidential election. Yet, that information was not shared internally, just leading up to the elections, a few days before the elections. We clearly saw that we cannot make it. And unfortunately, I would leave my party politics at the door, if need be, to ensure that our country grows, not just us.
Would it be right to say that there is a lot of party politics? Because this is something that has been spoken about in media. There's a lot of party politics which actually obstructs progress, and deserving people don't really get what they deserve. Welcome everyone, you're watching another episode of Conversations with Alanki. It would be right to say that the political landscape of Sri Lanka has changed after the presidential elections which concluded recently. Perhaps people want a real change. General elections will be in a few weeks. Who will be in parliament? What do we need to know? Well, today joining me in this episode of Conversations with Alanki is Mayantha Dissanayake. He needs no special introduction. He is the district leader of Nuwara and a member of the working committee of the SJB. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being a part of this conversation. This is my second interview with you. My first interview with you was 4 years ago.
Yes.
And you were in the SJB back then, and you're still in the SJB, right?
I am still a card-carrying member of the SJB. Correct. Yes.
All right. You worked, I think it would be right to say that you worked tirelessly and contributed so much to the SJB after the breakaway from the UNP. Why did you decide not to contest the elections?
For me, it was actually more of a personal decision than a political one. I just felt at this moment in time that the country has gone through a major shift and a political shift, a realignment, if you would like to call it. And we in the SJB need to take stock of that. If we are continuing in the same old manner and the same old fashion, without realizing what the people have said and how they have voted, and realizing that we do need a new direction in our political thinking. I felt that it's a case of, especially if I'm looking at contesting from Nuwara, I felt that we require the center-right parties. I'm not saying the SJB and only the UMP, but there are other center-right parties that needs to get together in terms of facing the challenge that's really up ahead for us in the next general election. And I've always voiced and made my concerns at the parliamentary group meeting and certainly at the working committee also of the party, saying that we do require some kind of realignment, because the country at that time was also looking at making a shift in, because the UMP has ruled this country, the SLP has ruled this country, the breakaway from the SLP, the SLPP has ruled this country. We, as a breakaway of the UMP, have not been in power, but certainly the seniors of our party have been in government, been ministers in the last Jahapalna government. So the country has really spoken about the requirement of a system change. I mean, people spoke about a system change in 2020 elections also, and they voted for Gotabaya. Unfortunately, the system change that people wanted and expected did not take place very clearly. Within a short period of time, like 2 years, Gotabaya and his government was entirely, through Aragalaya, through a silent protest, through street protests, through kind of a democratic revolution. Um, Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government was cast aside, and we all remember that history only 2 years ago. So radically, things have changed. For the first time, we must realize in the history of this country, uh, a Marxist Communist Party has come into power. People have given their trust to Honorable Kumar Dissanayake, and the JP has won the confidence of the people. And at the upcoming general election, if you continue in this manner, we are not going to win. We are not going to be able to form, unfortunately. I'm quite sad about it. We are not going to come into power. We are looking at many, many years more in opposition. So, in a situation of that nature, I just felt that I too need to take a break from politics, at least a temporary break. I need to realign my thinking and think out of the box again and think afresh. So to take a break is sometimes required. My father also took a break and went to Cambridge and did his, in his masters in University of Cambridge at that time. So I also thought to myself that I can maybe take a break, do my masters, start thinking anew, look at how the center right can be realigned. There's of course also the issue of financial burden in terms of contesting election, which I felt is, you will need at least 20-25 million for me to contest from Norelia. It wasn't a case of winning or losing. I mean, politics and being in the game is part and parcel of winning and losing. So you learn to roll with the punches. So it wasn't a case of Alanki. It wasn't a case of winning or losing. As I said, it was a case of, where are we going, where are we heading, how are we going to get there, are we going to come into power, can I also contribute not just to the district or to electorate, but can I contribute as a national leader to this country the way that my father contributed? Will we get that opportunity to contribute? So it is again, thinking how we are going to do this. Are we up to the challenge in terms of facing this? Because the pendulum has swung to the left. It will. My personal feeling is it will swing further to. It hasn't peaked. It will further swing to the left with the upcoming general election. So those are the thoughts that went through my mind, and I had to make a political and a personal decision whether to contest for this election or not.
All right, you did say that if we continue in the same way, uh, we will not be able to win. What do you mean by continuing in the same way? Are you implying that things need to change or things ought to change?
Well, we have to make that change, as I said, because the country has given a mandate to Anup Kumar Dissanayake. So if you are not realizing the ground realities of where we are, again, I'm not blaming any one person. I think as a collective, the SJB leadership, which we are all part and parcel of, have to accept the fact that we have been defeated. We have not won. And if we are looking at future elections and victory in those future elections, we have to really think about where we are going and how we are doing. For an example, we have, I mean, it's only 4 years since the SJB has been established, and this is the first presidential election as an as party, as a political party, as a SJB. We face the presidential election, and certainly this is not the first election that we are facing, general election as SJB, because last time we did contest under the SJB banner. But however, this is the first time that, after 4 years, we have got our own party structure in place. We have got our Shaka Samitis, the Khanta Samitis, the youth organizations. All those things are now supposed to be in place. Our unions are in place. Our trade unions are in place. However, it has not worked for us. We have not clearly got the required number of votes to cross that 51 point or 50.1%. So a realignment is certainly needed, and there is no other way of saying it. You can say, oh, no, not to worry, everything is okay. We will, make the required adjustments and just continue. Uh, but the ground reality is that we have lost the election,
Why
and
do
it's an election, and I must state here, it's an election that we could have won. I think if you really study the election results as well, very clearly this was the election that we could have won, but we didn't.
So, in your view, why do you think people rejected mainstream political parties, most mainstream political parties?
They've rejected certainly the center right. All political parties have been rejected. Center parties have been rejected, uh, and surprisingly, as I said, a center left party, a communist party. People just really wanted that change, and they were sick of the corruption. I think corruption was a number one issue, which most political parties failed to address. They said, yes, we got up on stage and said, yes, we are against corruption, we are an anti-corruption party, but did not actually build on the trust of the people as to, how we are going to eliminate corruption. How are we going to reduce corruption? How are we going to handle the government sector? How are we going to look at the tender process? How are we going to, all procurement of the government processes? We did not address those issues, I think. I mean, we were there making political speeches, but Andhra Kumar Dissanayake also made political speeches. But he was able, especially after Aragali in the last 2 years, he was able to build that confidence that saying, look, I am going to, trust me.
Right.
People of this country can trust me. It's amazing. Even yesterday, I was having tea with a friend of mine who's married to a Sri Lankan lady here, and they said, look, even amongst the expat community, people who are married to Sri Lankans who are living here, who's living down south, who's doing businesses here, said our families also were supporting Andhra Kumar Dissanayake, which I was very surprised to hear. And I said, look, a communist party has come into power. Aren't you all worried about your businesses and conducting? He said, look, when we try to get approvals, it takes weeks and months in terms of the process just going.
There's a lot of bureaucracy.
So they expect that system change to take place. And certainly after the election of Andhra Kumar Dissanayake, that presidential election, I feel that they will increase their vote. And we will certainly reduce our vote. That has been always the case, but this election will be an exception because people who are frightened to vote for the JVP or the NPP have lost that sense of fear now. And they are confident of voting for the NPP now. So they will certainly increase their, that is my take on it, my prediction on it.
I think it's also because people are rejecting corruption, and they're rejecting the many issues that most mainstream political parties failed to deal with. Moving on to my next question. Certain members of the SJB were reluctant to join with the UNP. How do you see this? Do you think that the SJB and UNP should have merged or should merge to form a stronger alliance?
When you look at, that's a good question. When you look at where we are from and our policies, certainly there is a draw towards the UMP. We call it our Mahagedara. But my point of view or my opinion was not necessarily a merger of the two parties, but a close alliance in terms of working together. All center-right parties, I feel, or felt that they should get together in terms of coming together, working together, not necessarily any mergers. I mean, the SJB and the UMP do not have to merge. It does not mean we have to work under the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe, or it doesn't mean that, both the leaders have to work out how they're going to, merge these two parties together and who's going to be the boss or who's going to be the leader. It was a case of strategically, policy-wise, where we are going to be, where we want to be, where we want the country to be, in what direction we want to take the country in. It's a case of, so it wasn't a personality issue for me,
Right.
although it became a personality issue for the top leadership. It was simply a case of, if you want to win this election, that was a presidential election, or any future elections that we are going to face, there certainly has to be a realignment of the political forces in this country. The center left or the communist elements have got together, and they were speaking in one voice, whatever their differences were internally. We got into a situation where policy-wise we were on the same lines. However, we failed to work together. So I think the election results are very clear. People do talk about it. About 57-58% of the country has voted against Alanki Dissanayake. I mean, you can be very bold in saying that. He only got 42% of the vote, which means 57-58% of the country did not vote for him. So in effect, he is a minority president. He wasn't elected with 50.1. He didn't cross the 50.1. So with that 42%, what I mean is a minority president, in the sense, as I said, no party crossed 50.1. However, when you combine the opposition vote base
And the UNP.
The UMP, the SJB, all the other opposition parties,
There could have been a victory, a clear victory.
there could have been a very, very clear victory. I mean, an opposition candidate or our opposition candidate could have crossed the 50.1%, but unfortunately, there were issues internally, there were issues with the campaign strategy. Unfortunately, although we say we have a good team, I don't see how that good team that we have is being utilized. I mean, it's unfortunate that, I mean, going back to 88, 89, the election, Honorable His Excellency Rana Singh Premadasa's election, whatever their internal differences were, he had Gamini Dissanayake working for him, he had Lalit Murli working for him, he had all these leaders in the UMP working for the greater victory of our presidential candidate, and following that presidential candidate's victory, the party's victory at the general elections, which I don't see happening, unfortunately, right now.
What are your honest views on the NPP? Do you think they can really bring about a system change and walk the talk?
Well, they have talked the talk. It's yet to be seen whether they can really walk the walk, or rather, walk the talk.
Walk the talk.
And I think country is watching, people are watching. They are very hopeful that they can. The world is also, other countries are also looking at how they are going to deliver the various promises that they have made. So let's give them an opportunity of proving themselves. Alanki Dissanayake, His Excellency the President, have been a minister, and a few of them have held portfolios before, but for a very short period of time. They did not get a clear mandate for themselves to govern this country. Here, the people of the country are giving them that mandate. They will get a majority. They will certainly, I don't think they will get a two-thirds majority in parliament, but I think they will come pretty close, striking distance towards that. They may get anything more than 125, 130, maybe 135 seats in parliament. This is my personal assessment of it. Again, the SJB and all the opposition parties currently in the center right will get a rude awakening call after the general elections. Unfortunately, I'm not saying this with I'm quite sad about that.
Do you think the party should be reformed?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, there has to be reform. I mean, in general, the center-right, all camps, all political parties have to look internally and do an analysis and say, where did we go wrong? How did we end up here? We should have clearly won, but we did not win. What happened to us? what are our shortcomings. And also, they say like in business a SWOT analysis. So politics also you can do a internal SWOT analysis. Clearly, all the forecasts and the predictions and some other the surveys that were done clearly indicated that we will not make it. We will not win the presidential election. Yet, that information was not shared internally. We were given a impression that, oh, we are clearly going to win and we are going to win. Sajid Premanasa will definitely become the president. He will get over 52-53% of the vote. Unfortunately, just leading up to the elections, a few days before the elections, we clearly saw that we cannot make it. And unfortunately, we got very little votes in terms of we did not cross the 40% mark either, which Honorable Sajid Premdas was able to do last elections. And keeping in mind last elections, we did not have a party mechanism. We did not have party structures. We did not have unions and trade unions and youth organizations and women organizations. Nor did we have grassroots level, village level, electoral level, district level organizations supporting us.
But here you had a clear team, a clear structure, and yet
team,
failed to win the elections.
Yeah, and I feel that my personal opinion is that we did not utilize the team, as I said, on His Excellency Rana Singh Premadasa, with all the differences internally within the party. And it's no secret, my father had differences with President Premadasa. Even before he became President Premadasa, when he was Prime Minister Premadasa. He had differences with Jayawardena, but they united in terms of the party policies, the things that they wanted to do, and how they're going to govern. Which unfortunately there isn't a cohesive get together, cohesive meeting of the minds within the opposition parties. Not just us.
Would it be right to say that there is a lot of party politics? Because this is something that has been spoken about in media. Especially, I see it on many YouTube channels and certain media, other media as well, which say that there's a lot of party politics which actually obstructs progress. And deserving people don't really get what they deserve.
Well, internal disputes and internal issues are and party politics, as you correctly termed it, is something common to all political parties. Even in the NPP or the JVP, there are internal issues, and we clearly saw them during elections as well. But what is important is whatever your internal issues are, as a team, you work towards a common objective and common goals.
Right.
The parties that do have that cohesion and that getting together will end up winning elections. And this is the
keeping their differences aside.
Well, not necessarily keep their differences aside, but focus more on the targets and the objectives where we want to be as a political party. And focus on that.
So people often talk about changing the system, but not many realize the importance of changing the political culture that exists in Sri Lanka. How do you feel about this?
The culture has to change. The system has to change. The culture has to change. People have to change. Their approach to politics have to change. Their approach towards politicians have to change. We are a culture of, diao, give, we want more. Certainly the standards and the expectations have to change. Politicians have to become a more professionally organized team, whatever. So people are expecting that change, that cultural change. So I don't know how the NPP or the JP, the current government, is going to do that. But certainly it's something that I, as a citizen of this country, not necessarily a politician, as a citizen of this country, also expect, because we cannot simply continue the way that we are continuing. I'm not comparing ourselves with the developed West or countries of that nature, but our thinking certainly has to change. We have to start from the school level, the education level. Culturally, we have to make that difference here. Whether we are going to continue in this manner or not is something that the NPP, JVP government, as I said earlier, center left, a communist party, I hope they are able to make that change in the next 3 to 4 years. If not, if they are unable to do that, I think there will be a one-term government.
All right. Let's reflect back on the economic crisis that Sri Lanka faced. So it was evident that there is a lot of inefficiency within the system, and there's a lot of corruption, and there were poor policy decisions taken, which actually contributed or led to the economic crisis.
Correct.
But eventually, the people were burdened by it. People had to pay for the loss. Is this right? I mean, or could things have been done differently?
Certainly, with hindsight, Alanki, you can say we could have done things differently. People could have not voted the way they voted. Without going into the blame game, um, I hope and I sincerely pray that people do realize the mistakes that certainly the political leadership has done. I hope the politicians realize the mistakes that they have done. There is absolutely no excuse why we should be in this situation that we are right now. We are still a bankrupt country. No matter what the political leadership says, we are still a bankrupt country. We have not paid our foreign debt. We have not paid our local debt. So we need to start, and that date is coming very, very quickly close by. We are talking about a year, maybe a little more than a year in terms of paying. We start repaying our foreign loans and our debt. There is no getting away from it. Even if you talk about restructures and haircuts and everything else, there is still billions and billions of dollars that we have to repay. So it's not going to be easy. The people of this country, unfortunately, will be burdened further in terms of their taxes. But one thing is, there is
But it's
because of the
also a
economic theme.
situation of where people have to pay for mistakes they didn't do.
Certainly, you can't blame the politicians 100%. Nor can you blame the people of this country 100%. It's it's a shared. I mean, all of us, including the civil service, is to blame for where we are right now. We have certainly not made the right decisions. We have not taken the right policy decisions. We have not gone in the right direction. We have, done foolish mistakes. And this country, again, without economic discipline, learned just to, whenever we are in trouble, print as much as money you want, and that money will pay for everything, without looking at the medium term, long term consequences of those foolish economic decisions. I mean, in a way, hats off to the last parliament and His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe. He actually brought in several acts, economic reform acts, that tightens the screws in terms of the political leadership, the decisions that they can make. So, for example, the independence of the central bank. It's a very good bill. The anti-corruption bill, again, it's a very good bill. If you reflect further back to the previous parliament, the Rights to Information Act, for example, it's something that really strengthens democracy in this country. But again, unfortunately, so many years down the line, apart from a few organizations, civil organizations, democratic organizations who value democracy, the citizens of this country in general, again, this is not an accusation or a charge, but citizens of this country generally have not learned to use the Right to Information Act, because you can really get the kind of information that you require to protect those institutions and to hold
them accountable.
Hold the leadership of those institutions accountable.
Right.
When they know a citizen can come up to the accounting officer of that ministry or that institution and say, look, I want to know what the accounts are.
Right.
the past 3 years and how the chairman what are the benefits the chairman has got? Has he abused his, his privileges? Uh, then you can hold them accountable with that.
I mean, that is indeed a step towards increasing transparency.
Absolutely, and accountability.
What do you think Sri Lanka will look like in 10 years?
Again, very good question, which I wish I have a crystal ball that I can tell you what it is.
Okay,
I tell you what my hope is.
What your hope is, right?
Yeah, my hope is that we are a mature democracy in this country, certainly. But I hope that we will have that economic stability. I hope, I mean, it's a very small thing to say, but I hope when we travel, our passport is valued. Again, I do not mean that we are going to become a European country, but that value that the foreign countries give our people and the passports. I mean, you look at thousands and thousands of youngsters leaving this country. We have not yet answered that. How are we going to, once they leave, how are we going to, at some point in time, whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, how are we going to attract them back? How are we going to answer the question of brain drain in this country?
Right.
These are all these are not just buzzwords. There is certain meaning to them, and there's a certain depth to these words. So when you use a term like brain drain, it's not just that. There's a lot of things behind that that we need to do in terms of. So to answer your question in short, I would like to see this system change that we have been talking about for the last so many years. And I sincerely hope and pray that whatever government that's in place, whatever promises they have given, that they are able to fulfill those promises. I, for one, as a citizen of this country, will support any decisions that our leaders, our government, our presidents, our ministers make, our members of parliament make towards that goal. As a citizen, I would support that. I would leave my party politics at the door, if need be, to ensure that our country grows politically, economically, culturally, religiously. There are so many things that we can do that we have not done. I do not want to think that we are too late. I don't want to think that the ship has sailed, that we have missed the bus. I am optimistic in terms of my outlook. That's why I'm still, even as a private citizen, will engage in politics and continue in politics, and will fight for our people's rights, our democratic rights, our economic rights. So I am optimistic and hopeful, and I'm also grateful for people like you for actually having and doing your part in this grand scheme of things of trying to get this country to where we should be. I mean, think about it. Your mom had you many years ago. Again, not disclosing your age. But are you inheriting a country that your parents inherited, or are you inheriting a country that's worse than what they got? I think the answer does not require a lot of soul searching, but if you do some soul searching, you will realize we have inherited a country that's bankrupt. We have inherited a country that's highly divided. We have inherited a country that's internally racial. We have lots of religious issues, as I said. We do not identify ourselves as Sri Lankans.
Right.
But at the same time, the other side of the coin is when our kids, our youngsters, when they do go abroad, they will go through, some suffering in terms of finding their feet, finding their ground. But if you look at countries like Canada, Australia, England, some countries in Europe, certainly America, the Sri Lankans that have gone there are doing very well for themselves. They have become industrial leaders. I mean, they are electing Sri Lankans, Sri Lankan born citizens to parliaments, to members of their cabinet, as judges. Supreme Court judges. So Sri Lankans do well very when they go overseas, but unfortunately, when they are as Sri Lankans living in Sri Lanka, we don't seem to do well for ourselves here. So I would like to see that change. Honest to God, I would love to see that change, and if I can be part and parcel of that journey, I would certainly play that role. And I would again my sincere thanks to people who do make that sacrifice and do make that contribution. The journalists, the citizens, the political leadership, the civil servants, the private organizations, the NGOs, the civil organizations, those who engage. It's very easy to say, hey, I don't even go and vote. It's very easy to do that, and but to engage is far more difficult. Including your team who's here, who's making this recording possible. They are all playing a crucial role in it may be baby steps, small steps, but at least it steps towards the right direction. So,
Right.
so again, my sincere thanks and appreciation.
All right, everyone, we've come to the end of this conversation. Thank you for watching. Do remember, like, comment, subscribe. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, stay safe and take care.